Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Snort, snort, snort.
Code. Drip.
Snort, snort.
I got the drip. Go.
Yeah, that's true. Sarah in the chat just said, I had a fan for years who he's the nicest guy in the chat, but now I found out that the guy's basically like a pedophile. Like he's got all this shit on his YouTube channel and stuff. Disgusting. And I tried to be nice to the guy for the longest time because he would never break the rules. He would never do anything wrong in my chat. But then everyone kind of campaigned to get him banned. And then finally I got convinced by these people I was doing a collab with to get rid of him. And I was like, I guess, this is the kind of people that get involved in these communities. Like, dude, it's weird. The internet's a weird
How do you have to be
place.
convinced? What do you mean? Can you elaborate on that a
Sure.
little more for me?
Listen. It's not like I have any problem kicking, a pedophile out of my community. The problem is this is someone who has absolutely never shown that in any of my streams or content. Like, I wouldn't even know about this if my detractors hadn't stalked this guy. Like, apparently they went to his social media, they went to his YouTube channel, they went to private playlists. I don't know, because I literally have never seen it. I don't want to see it, right? I don't want to be involved with that shit. But, I start hearing from detractors, oh, this guy is this guy is that. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm not a guy who's going to micromanage and stalk every one of my fans because someone says something negative about them, right? So it was like my philosophy, listen, I'm not your dad. I'm not your fucking parent. I'm not the cops. I shouldn't be, going to everyone's social media to see what you're into in your private life and shit. I really don't care. Just don't bring it to my content. I want to know nothing about it. But
okay. So I have a few problems with that.
All right, fine.
The thing
Go
about that is like, yeah, you shouldn't be stalking people, but in this instance, it sounded like they were doing you a favor. They're saying there's someone who's into like little kids, like that's giving you like that's not stalking someone and being unreasonable. If someone says like this person has pedophilic tendencies, you should probably ban them from your chat. You got to think of like, what if they're DMing other people in your chat? What if they're doing shit behind the scenes? I think you as a content creator, a streamer, however you want to style yourself, has a responsibility to the people who pay your bills to protect them from people like that. I think that if it took you a long time from when they first told you to you banning them, that's a pretty big moral failing, in my opinion.
Well, the way I see it, and listen, I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm not. The way I see it is, this is a guy who, I would argue, was probably about a year and a half, 2 years, was in chat and never caused a problem, and I didn't know any of this shit. And then all of a sudden, where do you hear it from? Am I hearing it from trusted people? No, I'm hearing it from like my detractors are coming in and trolling the guy. And by the way, this is not the only guy. They do this with a lot of my viewers. This just happened to be like a bad offender. Like, they'll make fun of my viewers for dumb shit too. This is a really bad
pedophilia.
situation.
This
exactly.
is different. You could take 5 minutes to check the validity of this, right?
Well, again, that's a big step. For me, that's a big step because you're saying now that any time that one of my detractors comes in and says, hey, just so you know, this person is doing something bad, now I'm supposed to just believe them and go check on every single person. Because what happens is when you give these people an inch, they take a mile. So the first time it happens and I entertain it and I take the step, now it's going to happen to the next person and the next, and they're never going to give up. They're just going to do it literally to every person. And eventually it's going to be bullshit. It's going to be, this isn't serious. They're just doing it now to get attention because they realized they got me to react the first time. But I agree with you now.
The first time was a legitimate thing though, right?
But now I know it was. I didn't know it was at first. It took a lot of convincing from a lot of different people. And in fact, I had to personally behind the scenes apologize to a couple of people who were not detractors, who did recently tell me about this guy. And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to give those haters that satisfaction that they think that I'm just going to take action because they say something about it.
But that literally doesn't make any sense to me. Like, the alternative is what? He's a pedophile and you don't ban him, and that you're sticking it to the detractors that way. They would probably be like, okay, well, we don't like Phil. We don't like that he asked for so much money. But when it comes to serious issues like this, he's, because you got to stop thinking about these hypotheticals. Ultimately, you said previously, should I check every time one person says something about my viewers? But before you said that, you told me just now that a lot of people were telling you about Derich, right?
At one point, yes, very recently, and that's actually when I got rid of him.
Okay. So I don't know. I just think if you're going to have the audacity to go in and like, let's face it, like streaming's pretty cushy in a lot of ways. Um, if you're asking people for money, you should do right by them. And I think that doing right by them means not allowing actual child predators to just freely roam the chat, right?
For the record, I don't even know if it's like fully true. I just know people have told me. I didn't go deep into looking into this guy's stuff. And for the record, because I know you probably don't know this, there's no DMs on YouTube. There's no way this guy could have like reached out and tried to stalk or harass people through my channel. Unlike Twitch, where definitely that can happen, and there's evidence it happens all the time. On YouTube, it's just it's like a comment system. So this guy, to my knowledge, was not ever taking anything that he did in his private life and putting it onto my street, my viewers or other people in the community. In fact, again, the only reason I knew about this is because supposedly my detractors went deep into his shit to find it, and then when they found it, they threw it in my face like it's my fault, right? Oh, you have a follower who's a fucking pedophile. How dare you not take action? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, why are you bothering me with this shit, you know? But then after a while, you hear more and more people talk about it, and that's why, yes, finally when you have enough people, like, they're all confirming it, all right, now I got to take action because it's true. But my issue with it, now I understand. But my issue with it was I was afraid that if you give these people an inch, they will keep taking the mile and pushing the envelope with every person in chat, with every person who ever supported me. And then, by the way, for the record, this guy didn't even support me. He never even gave $1. He never became a paid member, nothing. He was just the chatter, like a casual guy there. But fair enough. I've certainly heard this from so many people. You're just the next person to correct me on this issue. And, from now on, when I hear of serious shit like this going on, I absolutely will look into it and address it, because I agree with you. The safety of the community is more important than, the detractors got a one up on me.
Yeah, because like you said, that one of the things you said in our DMs is you feel like you're on a redemption arc, right? Like you're trying to go on a redemption arc and prove that people were wrong about you, yeah?
I'm not that I'm trying to prove people are wrong. I'm trying to improve. Like, I know that I've made problems. I've had problems. I've had bad behavior. I'm trying to be better now. And I want people to know that. I want people to know that this is not the old Phil who's just going to sit here isolated, not talk to anyone, be a fucking, stupid, big-headed idiot, not take criticism, not improve for the better. I want to be the better person. That's one of the reasons why I have you on today. I wanted the kind of conversation we're having right now to happen. This is exactly the reason why I wanted you on, because I need to have honest conversations with people to improve and move forward in my life.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, but having a conversation and following through on it, two different things, right? Because I will say to you, like, you've never done anything to me personally aside from the Monster Hunter thing. Like, you've been polite and respectful in basically all of our interactions. So I'm sorry if this comes off as, I'm not trying to be aggressive towards you, but I think if you're going to talk about wanting to be better, then you need to like accept that you really fucked up on a lot of places, because that's a huge fucking, that's a bad mistake. Letting it, like, if one person is just consistently saying like everyone in the chat's a pedophile, whatever, but if you have multiple people, you like within the next few hours you should see that. Because what if you're wrong? What if your assumptions about like not being able to get into contact with people, what if they were on like, I don't know if you still have the King of Hate forum. What if they were in a Discord or something? And people like that, they're a cancer. You need to get rid of them immediately, even if they're not bringing it in to your stream, because it's not about, I mean, like the way you say it, it's like if they're part of your stream and they're not bringing it in, it just sounds like you're saying it's okay for people to be that way. And I don't think that's right.
No, of course that's not what I'm saying.
I know, but that's the way you're describing it comes off that way a little bit.
I guess here's the question I think every content creator has to face is, to what extent is your responsibility as a creator to vet or control your audience? Do you even do that? Or do you only do it when something comes to your attention? You know what I mean? Like, this is something new for me. This was the first case, honestly, where, you know, people stepped up and said something about someone in my audience, and it was like something really serious. It's not someone they're you know, they're making fun of someone for something stupid. This was something serious, and you know, I just didn't know how to handle it, quite frankly.
Okay,
I
so
didn't know.
I have something uncomfortable to ask you then.
Okay.
Um, so you've been apologizing, but I think this is
Mhm.
gonna sound weird, but I think if someone does the legwork to find out you have an actual predator in your chat and alerts you of that fact, you should thank them for doing that for you, because
Mhm.
they're, even if it's not necessarily their stated intended goal from the beginning of it, they're doing you a favor. And you should be grateful that even if it didn't start with the best of intentions, you should be a big enough man to say, you know what? I don't like you fuckers, but this time you did me a service, you did people in the chat a service, and I think that you deserve commendation for that, basically. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and to some extent, this has happened over the years as well with other things. For example, there was this time. Actually, it was actually around the same time that we were having our interactions. Now that I'm thinking about it, where there was this couple. Listen to this story. I don't know if you've heard this story
I
before.
know this one. They
Oh,
mentioned me during this
oh, did
and
they?
on Kiwi Farms. Yeah.
So yeah, there was this couple who were, I guess they were like in Europe or something,
Mm-hmm.
and they were catfishers, and they would
Yep.
impersonate women on the internet and pretend to be escorts, and they would create these giant overblown stories and harass people with these stories in an attempt to extort them and try to get like money out of them and shit. And they had tried to do this to me apparently, but it didn't work on me because I was already so hated on the internet and shit. I didn't care about my reputation or whatever. I just told everyone, listen, it's bullshit, right? I'm telling you it's bullshit. I don't have to tell you nothing else because it's all made up. It's all fantasy. And that's how I handled it. And no one really cared in my community, but it was my stalkerish style detractors who looked into the situation and found out who these people were and posted it up all over Kiwi Farms and exposed them. And, you know, so out of, you know, all these times that these people do these things, right? There are some times absolutely that good things come out of it. That was definitely one case. The Derich thing is definitely one case. But again, like that's two drops in a bucket of, you know, shit that they do, that it's like two positives out of 5 zillion negatives, and it's hard for me to really give credit with the other awful things they've said, they've done, they've heard. You know, that you again, the extent of it is so ridiculous. I don't want to talk about it because when you talk about it, you're giving them attention. That's what they want, right?
Sure.
But I hear what you're saying. Yes, in this case, these are situations where even though the intention was negative, something positive came out of it. And I think they should know that, you know, they should be credited with those times. But overall, does it justify their overall years of complete harassment and stalkerish behavior just because twice they got something that was like a positive out of it? I don't know. Like, I am thankful for the fact that they have exposed these things.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. I'm gonna interrupt you really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've heard the opposite part of this too, where when you do something good and people are like, "Oh man, Phil actually knocked it out of the park," you feel like they only focus on the negatives, right? Like they won't acknowledge when you do a good thing. So I feel like they would say the exact same thing about you. That you just, it's just like listening to the other side of the fucking argument right now for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Fair enough.
say that sorry, they would say that maybe Phil did good this time, that time, whatever, but does it justify like the WWE champions or whatever the fuck
Mm-hmm.
else they're mad about with you, excuse me. Um, so I don't know, man. I don't know. You just got to give credit when credit's due, because you kind of expect to be commended when you do something good, right? Like you say, I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for that, I made this mistake, that mistake, and I've gotten better. And if you can't have it just be a one-way thing, right? You
I
can't
think you're
expect
right.
people to just ignore all of your fuck ups and only focus on commending you for the positives and not give the other side the same courtesy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. All right, how about this? Because I think someone in the chat just said it in a good way. Expecting Phil to worship people who hate him is unreasonable. I agree with that statement, but that's not what Tolo is saying. He's not
Yeah,
saying
that's
worship
ridiculous.
the people. He's saying give credit where credit is due, right? And in this case, in those particular situations, yes, I think credit is due. Um, But I also, the reason that I don't give credit is because I have all the other shit going on at the same time. That's why. You know, it would be one thing if I hadn't had years of systematic harassment, my family members, my business, all stalked, all being hurt constantly behind the scenes. Then I probably would be more open, right? And that's what it is like now I've been on the defensive for so goddamn long. But that's why, Tolo, I really appreciate you being honest in our interview today. Because
Okay.
this is the kind of shit I need to hear. This is the shit I don't hear and I need to hear. Because I can't
Then,
go ahead.
let's see. Let's do this then. Are you willing to thank people for taking care of the Derich situation and taking care of the catfishing situation? You're not busy now. We're having this conversation. So are you comfortable saying that? I'm not asking you to worship people. You don't have to like them.
Right.
But if you want people to look past their misgivings with you, you have to do the same. And you have to acknowledge when people actually do something that's positive, because it could have gone a whole nother way. Like if they really wanted to ruin your life to the extent that you think, they may have tried to embolden someone like Derich and enable him and get him in a position where he'd be able to cause real harm to your community. But they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense, right?
It makes sense, but you're coming at it from an angle, and I get it, because that's the perspective you're seeing. My perspective is the reason that they didn't is because they wanted to pin it on me. Like they wanted to say, you see, Phil has this guy in his community, and that's, you know, that's on him. You know what I mean? And so, but you know what? You're right. I will publicly right now say to anyone out there, because I actually don't know the people who were involved doing it. I don't go on Kiwi farms and study accounts and shit. I don't have any interaction with these. To those of you out there who don't, even if you don't like me, to those of you who have done me a solid, who have done these kind of things, exposing that ridiculous catfish, right? Taking care, well, not taking care, but exposing the truth about the Derich situation. Thank you for that, because those are things that help the community, that help me. And I do appreciate that because, you know, for me, I'm just a dude sitting here streaming all day. I don't really go outside of like Tolo has even said here. It's rare when I would go outside of my comfort zone to explore into these regions, these realms of this shit going down. So I don't even know what to believe half the time, right? You know, I've heard that about Derich for about a year. I heard that about Derich, and I was like, I don't know what to believe, because I always hear it from detractors. And it wasn't until I started getting corroboration from other people who were saying, well, we looked into it and we seen it too. Oh shit. So now I made a big mistake because I just immediately dismissed what the detractors were saying rather than giving it any kind of merit because it was from the detractors. When I started hearing it from other people, then I start to believe it. Next thing you know, oh, it's actually true. Shit. I should have taken action sooner. That's on me. I apologize for my lack of action faster, and I apologize for not giving credit where credit is due. Thank you to those who have actually done that the solid rather than, like Tolo suggested, tried to make it worse. Thing is, that's not everyone, but for those of you who were involved with that shit, I do appreciate that.
All right. I think in the future, though, you should not qualify it at the end like that. You should just maybe a couple people, or you're thanking a couple people unjustly. Who gives a shit, right? Like it doesn't matter. It just makes it seem like a little more forced when you add the little bit at the end there. But we don't have to keep talking about this.
Dude, the conversation could go any way you want. I just wanted to have you on to shoot the shit. Like I said, this is a situation where it's a conversation that could go in a lot of different directions, and it's fine as long as people are enjoying it or we're getting something out of it. I'm totally cool with you being honest about this stuff. I am, because like you said, you're an outsider. It's good to get an outsider's perspective, right?
I mean, kind of. I've watched some of the earlier "This Is How You Don't Play" stuff. I've watched a good bit of it, but I don't know if I'd say I'm entirely an outsider because I've had dealings with you before. But I get what you're saying.
I got the drip going. 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 It's like a faucet that's dripping. You can't make it stop. So what do you want me to do? Have a mute button that every second I'm tapping the mute button just in case I'm gonna have to clear? Like, this is what I mean. These dumb kids. This is what it is. It's dumb kids.